Wake up, rethink the status quo. When you get your money right, then you're the one who runs your life. Come build a wealthy spirit with Sammie and Michelle.
Change happens when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change.
Ooh, it looks like somebody has been spending a lot of time with Tony Robbins.
A lot of time indeed. As you guys may recall, I had my thyroid removed.
She's doing great.
Doing great, but I did have a little speed bump.
Huge speed bump.
Huge speed bump. I had a GI bug, you could say. Lot of vomiting, so much so that I had to actually go to the emergency room, which, to be honest, I actually had never been in the emergency room before. They got my stuff taken care of ASAP, gave me some fluids, and then I slept for 48 hours. And I was very photosensitive, so I was in a dark room, and I was in a dark place because I could barely get out of bed.
I remember that. It was a sad time.
It was a sad time. You left me, though.
I did leave you. I had to save myself.
And that's when I found Tony Robbins on a Netflix documentary. And he said, "I am not your guru." That's the title of the documentary. Changed my life. Since that time, I've been listening to Tony's content because I know how important it is to be mindful about the 5 people you surround yourself with. And I wanted one of those people to be Tony because he is so inspiring.
He really is. And Sammie, I love that he was one of your 5 people because coincidentally, he also loves this quote that we will be digging in today, which comes from motivational speaker Jim Rohn. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. This is an idea where if you are enjoying content about growing yourself, bettering yourself, you will hear it from everybody. Tony Robbins, Tim Ferriss. People love this idea that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And it's not that crazy. If I'm laying in a bed like Sammie and listening to Tony Robbins all day, guess what? I'm going to awaken the giant within.
Yep. And I'm going to get out of that bed and drink some Gatorade.
Sammie and I, in case you don't know, we've been doing a lot of hand pumping action and clapping like Tony in his giant hands.
He kind of like does this clap where he comes together with his hands, but they don't touch. And I think that's because if he did clap them, it would be like so loud.
So thunderous.
So he's like, let me just almost
clapping.
clap him. Air clap.
Yes, exactly. So today we are going to be digging into this idea. What exactly does it mean that you are the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with? How can you be more intentional about it? Because we have found that paying attention to these things really change our lives because we're making sure that we're very intentional about the people we bring into our lives, that they're positive, that they have good messages, that they give us popsicles in the elevator like a nice man did at the Residence Inn that we're staying in. Good people can change your life. Good people can take your scarcity mindset and help you dream big.
And bad people can suck you like a leech. So we want to make sure we talk about the 5 people you surround yourself with today.
Let's get into it.
But first, Michelle and I want to talk about an awesome resource which we have created and you can find in the show notes. It is the 5 stages of building a wealthy spirit.
Yes, Sammie and I have created this helpful one-pager which includes our 5 stages of building a wealthy spirit. You may have heard us mention it before in our episode about our rebrand, where we wanted to focus on these 5 stages that we think everyone goes through when they're making major changes in their life for the better. That includes
recognition, isolation, preparation, self-discovery, and building community.
Yes. And the cool thing is that you can download this, you can reference it when we're talking about our episodes. We actually reference these ideas when we're planning each episode because we want to make sure that we're staying true to our pillars. And when you download it, you'll also sign up for our newsletter, which gives you an opportunity to get all of our show notes, all of the content that we randomly mention, all of these references. Those are always included. And you can actually be a part of our community. Speaking of building a community, we love to hear from you. We get texts from you. We get tweets from you. We get messages from pigeons. Just kidding. Well, we do, but that's like a whole separate thing. The point is, we love to hear from you, and we want to be able to give you all a place where you can share your thoughts on the topic of the week and engage with each other. And if you comment on our Substack, you bet your bottom dollar that we'll be commenting back to you.
So check out the link in the show notes and join our community today. Now back to today's topic, the 5 people you surround yourself with. Ryan Holiday, author of many Stoic-related things.
Like dozens of books, and the Daily Stoic podcast, and dailystoic.com, which is where we found an amazing piece where, surprise, surprise, he also references the 5 people you surround yourself with.
Turns out that this whole 5 people you surround yourself idea goes back really far. We're talking Seneca far. Ryan says that, as Seneca wrote, even Socrates, Cato, and Laelius might have been shaken in their moral strength by a crowd that was unlike them. So true it is that none of us, no matter how much he cultivates his abilities, can withstand the influence of their surroundings.
Wow. It's no surprise that even the Stoics were talking about this idea, because they understand, even in 60, 80,
10,
that you are inevitably going to be influenced by the people around you. And that can be a really great thing. Something I think about is that when I was in San Francisco, I saw for the first time friends. I had 3 close friends in my time there who started their own companies. They took time off work, they saved their dollars, and they decided to launch their own business. I had another girlfriend who took a year off of her work. She took a sabbatical. We met those people in Sonoma when we were drinking wine, who had taken a sabbatical and traveled the world. And that's important because at the time I thought that was so crazy to do. I was like, oh my gosh, like how much money are they living off of? How are they able to do this? But having that example, seeing that they were just so passionate about the thing that they were working on and they wanted to do that instead of being a part of the corporate world, showed me different frameworks for leaving the corporate space and pursuing your own project. So that when I did that myself a little over 2 years ago, I actually felt really comfortable because I had seen my peers do it and I saw that it was something that you could do, and it's not the craziest thing in the world. But had I not seen that, I don't even know if I would have thought that I could have taken time off work, or that I could have started a podcast with my sister or started writing online. It's crazy how just having that influence and being in a city like San Francisco where entrepreneurship and doing your own thing is so present really just motivated me. And so it really makes me appreciate that, like, the 5 people you surround yourself with, those like 4 people right there who are my closest friends when I moved to San Francisco, really influenced me over the long term.
That's why people pay the big bucks to live there.
Oh yes, we definitely did.
And it's beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
Another important aspect of the 5 people you surround yourself with is diversity. You want to be around people who are different than you. Maybe they work in a different field. Maybe they're from a different social class or from a different background. I think that can really positively influence you, especially if that person is a good person with good morals. That can have a really good influence on you.
I agree, Sammie. Even though we can surround ourselves with good people who do the same exact thing as us and look exactly like us, we don't realize we're in an echo chamber. We all start to believe the same things, we do the same things, we eat the same foods, we read the same books, and that's not really going to expose you to anything new. But people who think differently will challenge you in your life to reconsider important topics.
It's so true, Michelle. As a healthcare provider, you're often surrounded by a lot of healthcare providers. And that's great, but it often perpetuates a lot of things that seem normal that maybe to the outside world would not seem normal, like working long hours or a ginormous amount of student loans. I remember that fortunately, I had a friend in San Francisco who worked in investment banking, which I knew next to nothing about. I remember people would always be like, I work at Bain or I work at McKinsey. And I'd be like, oh, like, what do they do?
Yeah, I know you don't know what you're talking about because those are actually consulting companies.
I have no idea. Okay. But the thing is, these people worked in different industries and had a very different perspective. And I remember we were out to dinner with this friend and he was like, oh.
At French Laundry.
No, we were not.
Sorry, not French Laundry. What's that one place? Foreign Cinema.
Wow, pretentious. We were at French Laundry. It's fine.
Multi-Michelin star restaurant.
We just were on the wait list for 3 years, just like French Laundry, like you do.
Sorry, Foreign Cinema. Kind of bougie, not good food, but they play movies inside.
Definitely not French Laundry.
No.
So we were all there, and he was like, oh, Chase Private Client will give you X amount of money if you just put $100,000 in there. So it's a good idea right now to just take whatever account you have that has $100,000, maybe your 401k account, and transfer it over so that way you can get the bonus.
Not financial advice?
Yeah. This is way before we were FIRE. Okay, so to be clear. And I remember I was like, friend, I obviously don't have $100,000 to just throw around in any of my bank accounts. And he, being quite a few years younger than me, was shocked by this. He found it pretty disgraceful. And then he started asking me about my finances, how much I made, how much student loans I had. That was a shocker to him. He was so shocked by all of this that he was like, you know what, Sammie, you should go and work in investment banking for a few years, get some money, and then you can go back to doing this charity work that you're doing.
It's like a physician assistant thing. That sounds fun for you. You must enjoy it, but you have to go make money.
And it's so funny because being surrounded by healthcare workers, we're like, yeah, we make a good amount of money and we spend a lot of money, and we just ignore the fact that a lot of people are not building any wealth. But it was really good to have a friend just awaken me to the fact that what I was doing in his mind was completely whack.
It's true. This really did set Sammie off into her financial independent journey, learning more about personal finance, learning more about how to tackle some of these big things, and which inspired me too, because Sammie is one of the 5 people I surround myself with.
And that's why I think it's so important to have a diverse group of friends. They will give you such a different perspective, and they'll help you escape that echo chamber of those people who just perpetuate the same message that you already know.
You know, Sammie, something I like that Nick Gray said of the 2-hour cocktail party is that in his book, he talks about having a party with people who have diverse jobs and diverse interests. That's such a great thing to include when you're throwing like a party where new people are getting to know each other, because then, one, you're not like in this work bubble where you're all like, oh my god, I hate how we had to stay late on Friday and the boss is driving me crazy. She brought donuts even though she was late 1 hour. You don't want to get all up in those conversations. You instead can learn something else about someone's interests. You can learn something else about people's careers. Like, there's so many cool, interesting people out there who do things that are nothing like your own. And a cocktail party, a 2-hour cocktail party, is a great way to mix it up and invite different interesting people into your life.
Another great type of person to have in the 5 people you surround yourself with, hey, even if there's 6 or 7, that's okay, is a mentor. As you guys may know, Michelle and I are lucky enough to have formal mentors like Jordan Grummett of the Earn and Invest podcast. See last week's episode for details. And Josal Sehi of Stacking Benjamins, who are podcasters who are way ahead of where we are and have awesome insight into what makes a great podcast and how to build an audience. We're lucky enough to get to meet with both of them every week, and they really give us awesome tips that literally completely transformed the sound of our podcast. And they're able to do that because they've been doing this for longer than us. They've been doing this with a bigger audience, and they just have a better idea of what's going to stick. So we don't have to try to figure everything out by ourselves.
Exactly, Sammie. A mentor, somebody who's even a few steps ahead of you in the process. For example, even with podcasting, we give advice to people who are just starting a podcast. And it's hopefully helpful to them, but it's definitely been helpful to us because those people have already gone through the process of putting out hundreds of episodes and seeing what titles work, seeing what content works, seeing what turns off the audience and what gets people excited, and they can share that with you. So a mentor is a great person to add to your 5 people that you're looking for. And a great way to find a mentor is join different communities around like the interests that you have. So if you're a yoga teacher, going to a yoga teacher training may introduce you to not only peers who are interested in that topic, but also actual teachers that are a little bit ahead of you. I'm in a bunch of online communities. My writing community has really introduced me to people who are creators who have been doing this for years. They have tens or hundreds of thousands of followers, and they can actually give me some advice and encouragement on my own journey. So a mentor, don't sleep on a mentor. Like it seems casual, but you know what? Even like Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, they all mentored each other.
Mm-hmm.
Don't leave yourself out. If it's good enough for them, it's good enough for you.
And I've heard a really great tip about finding a mentor. It doesn't have to be so formal, but instead of approaching somebody with your needs, maybe offer to take them out to dinner or to lunch, or offer to help them on their projects so that way you can be included, but you're not asking something of them without giving something in return.
That's great advice, Sammie. And along the topic of how to find good people, inspiring people, a diverse group of people to be part of your 5 people crew, if you will, your little Dunbar circle, I think it's really important to know your values. It's important to know your goals. It's important to know what's important to you. Growing up, a lot of my friends were people who grew up in Michigan around us, who just happened to live within the same area code.
248.
Were in my AP classes, and a lot of those people were great. I was very lucky to be surrounded by awesome people growing up. But I didn't actively choose them. You sort of just happen to meet these people because you're surrounded by them all the time. I think now that I'm older, like I'm in my 30s, it's important for me to recognize that I really value positivity, I value growth, I value honesty, and I really look for that in people I'm adding into my life. If you have negative energy, I'm sorry, but done, okay? Honestly, if someone comes at my Twitter with the negative energy, block. I don't care. I have positive energy only. Good vibes only. And so those are things that are important to me, and knowing my values helps me see and identify that in other people. Because some people aren't bad people. You just want different things in your life.
Which is a great point, Michelle, because that means that you also have to be the best version of yourself when you go out there. If you're complaining, if I'm in a complainy, whiny mood, guess who's going to be around me? Negative people who also want to complain and whine. And I can't complain about that because I created that energy around me.
I felt that way at my last job. Me and this woman on my team, we became friends. She was a great person, but we were both so frustrated. We would spend hours on the phone complaining about the bad deals that we got, complaining about our managers, complaining about the snacks that they would provide. If there was something we could complain about, we would do so. And then when I left my job, honestly, we didn't stay in touch because the only thing we had built our relationship on was negative energy. And I didn't really want that negative energy in my life, and I'm sure she didn't want it in hers either. But we both attracted each other because all we wanted to do was complain. So it's really important to be aware of how you are attracting like-minded people. If you're not exuding the things that you want, you aren't going to attract those people.
That's right, Michelle. And it's also good to bring that beginner's mind, that learner energy to an environment too, because that also attracts like-minded people. I remember when I took Cadaver Lab over the summer. I was taking it at a college near our hometown, and I got to the class. It was super early in the morning. I felt like it was like before 8 o'clock in the morning. And one of the girls in the class was a girl I used to party with. And I was like, hey, you were in the cadaver class. Awesome. And I could tell she was not a morning person, which I completely understand. But I was at a point in my PA journey where I had to get an A in this class. And actually, for some reason at this university, I had to get an A+. Because for some reason, an A+ was a 4.0 and an A was a 3.7. And I could not have a 3.7 added to my GPA. I didn't have time to mess around. If you're a super nerd, then you may have done this thing where you take the syllabus, you look at all the total points for the semester, and then you see how many points you need to get an A or an A+ or whatever you need. And then you calculate how many total points you can lose over that quarter. That's the kind of fun I like to have. That's the kind of fun things I like to do. And it was like 6 points. And I did not have time to be with a non-morning person.
It sounds like there's already so much dead energy in there. Cadavers, get it?
So I'm super into my class. I'm learning as much as I can in as much detail as I can. And I ended up befriending somebody else who also had the same mindset as me. And we would meet up and study. And he was my study buddy. And let me tell you how much fun we had. We would take these cadavers and we would turn these questions from a simple, what is this muscle, to like third, fourth order questions. Like, what is the insertion point of the muscle that shares the innervation with the muscle that originates at the occipital bone, ligamentum nuchae, and the spinous process T1 through T12.
Sounds riveting.
So fun. Let me tell you, as a provider, I don't even know what that means. I'm like, your neck hurts? Okay. I wish I remembered everything. But at that time, I had so much fun. Got the A+ that I needed. We had a good time. And we just had like a really positive energy with each other. We loved to go in early, stay late, get as much extra credit as possible. We befriended all the teachers and the teachers' assistants. They wanted us to be teachers' assistants. All good vibes. Just like super good vibes. And I wouldn't have had that experience if I was like choosing to remain at a lower energy and not go deep into the class.
Understandable, Sammie. It sounds like the 5 people you surrounded yourself with were one excited, educated person and many, many dead bodies. That being said, you might be thinking to yourself, okay, I agree with you, Sammie and Michelle, Tony Robbins, Tim Ferriss, Jim Rohn, Seneca. But how do I even begin to think about the 5 people I'm surrounding myself with? So glad you asked. We have an exercise for you.
Look at your week.
Look at the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, you can do the past 2 weeks.
A month.
2 weeks is probably good. Think about every single hour of every single day. Who are you spending your time with?
Who are you texting? Who are you calling? Who is in your ears? Hello, thank you.
Michelle and Sammie, hopefully.
Michelle and Sammie. And start to list them out. Like, I'm spending this much time with Samantha, my roommate, sister, podcast host. Hours, 10 hours, 15 hours a day. I am listening to the Tim Ferriss and Samir and Colin show for 1.5 hours. Boom. I talked to my friend Suhaila on the phone for 3 hours. Start to break it down. Who are these 5 people actually? Not who do you want them to be. Not who do you hope they are. Like, who are you actually spending time with? Quantity of time is important here.
Yes. You're going to work. Who's around you? After you come back from work, who's around you? Write it all down.
And then ask yourself, am I happy with this? Do these people align with my values?
Look at them. Look at those 5 people or parasocial relationships. By parasocial relationships, I'm talking about podcasts, books, etc.
People you're obsessed with.
If you blended those together like a little math equation, sum it up, divide by 5. Are you cool with that?
Social media, TikTok,
'Cause that's
television
you.
shows.
Is it 90 Day Fiancé? Do you want to be Ed? No.
I don't
Personal
even know what that
problem.
means. But it sounds like no. So that's a great exercise. And if you don't like what you see, make changes. You have control in your life with who you surround yourself with. And you got to change the people that you can. If somebody's negative, if someone's bringing you down, if they're not supportive, encouraging you, positive, whatever your personal values are, maybe you want a Lambo and you want to surround yourself with people who got Lamborghinis. Sure, go ahead. Figure out how to make that happen. We're not here to judge you.
And if you find that some of those need to change, obviously if you can decrease the amount of time you spend with one of those people who's toxic to you, that's great. If you can't, maybe you can bring in more positive influences, whether that's actual people or podcasts or books or inspirational documentaries, whatever will bring that positivity to you, because that's going to shape who you become.
If you're in a dark room post-surgery with a surprising stomach bug, wondering to yourself, who am I? Where is my life going? Maybe Tony Robbins can be one of those 5 people for you.
If Tony is not one of those people, I know he's eccentric, but he is honestly excellent. He is such a skilled people person. Just highly recommend.
Big fans of Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
Takeaways.
Takeaways for today's episode. 1, when it comes to the people you have around yourself, try to create some diversity. Bring in some people who are not like you. Maybe they're people you want to be like. Maybe they're people who you really respect their values. Bring them in, whether physically or parasocially.
In your 5 people, try to include a mentor or a coach or somebody who's a few steps ahead of you that can help show you different ways to improve your craft, improve yourself. It's amazing what just having someone senior to you in your thing, like for us podcasting, it can make such a big difference. And they can help make the journey of the growth journey so much easier for you.
Know your values. It helps to know what kind of people you want around you by finding people who have similar values. If you're unsure about your values, there is always the values quiz, which we are big fans of and we'll link to in the show notes.
Yes. And also, it's important to be the best version of yourself. If you want to be a lighthouse for people who are good, smart, intelligent, kind, have Lamborghinis.
If you want to be a hardcore nerd, then be that nerd, and you will find your fellow nerds.
And do not dim your shine. Because the more you shine, the more you will be able to find great people. And try our exercise. Make a list of all the people, content, things that you have engaged with over the last 1 or 2 weeks, and see if who you think your 5 people are match up with who they actually are. Because sometimes we're spending a lot of time with somebody at work and we're talking on the phone being negative for 5 hours a day, and you have to admit if that's one of your 5 people.
Preach.
Community time.
Before we say goodbye, we have a little community time.
Yes, community. But you are the people that we surround ourselves with. So many of you reach out to us, you leave us comments, you tag us in tweets, you send us text messages, you send us emails, and we love to talk about it in our community time.
You know, I will say, having this podcast, I feel like encourages people to approach me about these topics. And so if they're going through their own spiritual awakening or organizing their finances or getting intentional about their life or building community, they know that that's something I would also like to talk about. And it creates a great conversation, and it creates like just a really good vibe with the people that I talk to as well. So I do feel like this podcast helps create a better 5 people I surround myself with.
I totally agree, Sammie. A great example is our listener, Nate, sent us this amazing essay called America's Big City Brain Drain, because we often talk about small town versus big city. We talk about low call versus high call. And it was so cool that he sent that to us and we were able to have a conversation about it. Sammie and I were listening to it while we were laying in a dark room as she was getting better. And that's awesome. We love that we have people in our community who we can talk to about these interesting topics. On top of that, people like Kelly Davis, she tagged me in a tweet where she mentioned how much she enjoys the terms like sabbaties and jobby mindset, which we love because we love using those terms. You know, sabbati, it's not, some people it catches on, some people it doesn't. I'm not making
How can
any.
it not catch on? It's so catchy.
I've noticed some patterns with the people who like it and they don't. Sabbaties, they are baddies. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. But no, I love to see that. My friend Cecile was actually asking on Twitter about terms for sabbaticals and people who are on sabbaticals. And you know I'm trying to make sabbati happen. Also, The Rationalist and Ishan were discussing podcasts on Twitter, and The Rationalist mentioned Build a Wealthy Spirit. And then Ishan said that he listened to the last episode. So thank you so much for sharing us, promoting us. That means so much to us because we really love doing this for you every single week. And then when you share it with a friend and let us know that you're listening, that's the biggest compliment to the work that we're doing. So thank you so much. And Mick from Small Bets asked a question in our podcast channel, and I responded. He was asking about what we use to edit. Spoiler alert, it's Audacity. And he said, "Oh, how interesting to hear from you. I've been listening to the episode with your interview with Doc G." So if you haven't heard our interview with Doc G, you can find it on the Earn and Invest podcast, or you can check out the last episode. We replayed that last week. Thank you all for sharing, subscribing, rating, commenting. We love to hear from you.
And once again, thank you to Erica. She has fully guided my thyroid surgery recovery. And honestly, Erica, if you could make a little infographic, PDF, handout, I'm sure it would be great for all, because the advice she gave me is just better than I received anywhere. She thought of things that I didn't even know that I was not thinking about. Like she was like, when you're stretching your head, don't stretch it too much to the side aggressively. I was doing that, I'll be honest. So thank you, Erica. Literally, I'm healed, and I want to thank you because you helped me.
Yeah, we had a lot of soft foods, popsicles, applesauce. We had a wedge pillow because of Erica.
Oh, the wedge pillow, so clutch.
Very clutch.
We'll link to it in the show notes. If you have GERD, if you have sleep apnea, if you have nasal sinus, postnasal drip, this is the wedge that will change your life.
Let us know what you guys think. We love to hear from you. You can actually go to buildawealthyspirit.com. You can download now our PDF on the 5 stages of a wealthy spirit. And we want to hear from you. Let us know in our comment section. What did you think about this episode? Who are the 5 people that you surround yourself with? Who are you thinking about getting rid of?
You can share it on our Substack. They're probably not on Substack.
Maybe.
And most importantly, be sure to join us next time as we put down the rulebook and we rethink the status quo.